I'm Reverend Dr. Frank Porter, and this is God's program, Changing Lives. The world is in the chaos everywhere, but what I specifically want to bring up to you is the Israelites, the Jewish people, with Hezbollah, but Hamas for right now. I want to explain, start giving you the history that God gave us in the Bible of how this was going to come about. I want to go at this point to the book of Daniel, chapter 8. It begins this way in verse 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared to me, Daniel, after the one that had appeared unto me earlier. Daniel will have 3 different visions in his timeline. Verse 2. In the vision I saw myself in the citadel of Shushan, sometimes referred to as the capital, which is in the province of Elam. In the vision I saw that I was beside the Ulai Canal. Okay. Now, I mentioned capital, Shushan, Susa, sometimes referred to as, okay? And sometimes the Bible will refer to the capital, okay, as Babylonia, okay? And so, that were 2 different capitals. It depends on what year we're talking about, and depending on who's the king at the time and where he wanted that king to operate out of, to run his kingdom. So at this point, Shushan, is where the king has established himself. Incidentally, who also that you would recognize came from Shushan, Susa? The prophet Nehemiah. Okay, let's go on, verse 3. And I lifted up my eyes and looked up, behold, a ram with 2 horns was standing in front of the canal. The 2 horns were long, but one was longer than the other. But the longer one grew up last. I'm going to explain, the Bible actually is going to explain to us in more detail of who we're talking about here in this ram idea, okay? See, we're looking during the time of Daniel. Daniel is 82, 83 years old, okay? But he's looking, he asks God for answers. He knows he doesn't have too many years left of life. And he wants to know what's going to happen to my people, Israel, okay? He's asking this question of God, and God is going to answer him. So we're looking here, we're looking at this way. We're looking at Daniel getting a picture of the future, okay? Just like, for example, when we study the book of Revelation, we're looking at God proving everything he told Daniel through the angel Gabriel, okay, and that would come true. Okay, so again, Daniel is looking to the future, what's going to happen to the Israeli people, and the book of Revelation through John, the Revelator, is looking at this is what happened in the past, proving God keeps his word. God was right. So now, verse 3, I lifted up my eyes and looked up. Behold, a ram with 2 horns was standing in front of the canal. The 2 horns were long, but one was longer than the other. But the longer one grew up last. I saw the ram charging toward the west and north and south. No animal could stand against him. None could deliver from his hand. So he did as he pleased and magnified himself. While I was contemplating this, says Daniel in verse 5, behold, a male goat came from the west, crossing the face of the whole earth without touching the ground. Now the goat had a conspicuous horn between his eyes. Verse 6, he came up the two-horned ram. He came up to the two-horned ram that I had seen standing beside the canal and charged it with raging strength. 7, I saw him attacking the ram furiously, striking the ram and shattering his two horns. Now the ram was not strong enough to stand against him, so he knocked the ram to the ground and trampled him. No one could rescue the ram from his power. The male goat became exceedingly great, but as soon as he became mighty, the large horn was broken, and in its place 4 prominent horns grew up toward the 4 winds of heaven. Verse 9, out of one of them came forth a small horn, which grew extremely large to the south and to the east, toward the beautiful land. The beautiful land is the land of Israel, the promised land that God promised to give, that he did give to the Israelites, the Hebrew people. Okay, verse 10, it grew as high as the host of heaven, and hurled some of the host and the stars down to the earth and trampled them. It set itself up to be as great as the Prince of Hosts. It took away from him the daily offering, and the place of his sanctuary was thrown down. Now, this will be explained to us in just a little while. Okay, verse 12, the host was given over along with the daily sacrifice in the course of its rebellion. It will hurl truth to the ground and prosper in what it does. Then I heard a holy one speaking, and another holy one said to the one who was speaking, how long will the vision last? The daily sacrifice be forsaken because of rebellion, the sanctuary be surrendered, and the host be trampled. Verse 14, then he said to me, for 2,300 evenings and mornings, then the sanctuary will be vindicated. Now, the interpretation. Verse 15, now it happened that while I, Daniel, was watching the vision and trying to understand it, standing before me was one with the appearance of a man. Okay. Verse 16, then I heard a human voice coming from between the banks of the Ulai, calling out, saying, Gabriel, make this man understand the vision. Who do you think was speaking? The God, our God. And he told Gabriel, explain it to him. Daniel had been praying for 19 days. Wanted to know what was the future for my people. He loved the people. Now, excuse me, there's something we have to say here that I believe is very important. God wants Daniel to know, because Daniel is answering, is questioning. And why does God answer your questions? Yeah. Why did God? Now, Daniel had been asking for years and years and years and years. Okay, and now he is 82 years old, and God is giving him the answer. Why? Daniel, in many ways, was a righteous man. Yeah? How righteous could he be? This way, at the age of 11, 12 years old, when they went into captivity, the 4 boys, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, okay, and Daniel, okay, they were taken into captivity to Babylon. All of this is in Iran, okay, known as Persia in the antiquity days. Okay, now the 4 young men were castrated. They were Jews, and Nebuchadnezzar was going to need them, wanted for them to work in his palace. But again, he's got a harem of women. And he doesn't want anybody messing with, touching his women, let alone getting any of them pregnant. So that's why one reason for sure, number one, you're going to go to work and you're not going to be worried about who you're going to have sex with or who you're going to marry. And Daniel realized this. I'll never know the warmth, the love of a woman. I'll never know what it would be like for that woman that I should have married, for example, what it would be like to have a son, to have a daughter, or more. That was history for them. But yet, okay, Daniel, in the 82 years up to this point, was faithful to God as a prophet, okay, that was called to a foreign country that were not his people. And Daniel, not only was he faithful to God and he recognized his calling in life as a prophet, but a prophet to the leadership in Babylon, in Iran. When, again, this is the land called Persia. Daniel was faithful. He did not sin with them. He did not worship false gods, but he was there to answer questions that the fake woke type priests of Babylonians could not answer to the kings, to the leaders at the time. He was faithful to both. He recognized, again, his position in life was to be prophet to pagan kings. And that's why God let him live that long. How long? There were at least 5 kings where Daniel worked with them, lived with them, and they cherished him. And let me give you a little history, an example. First, you have Nebuchadnezzar. I'm going to call him Grandpa. Nebuchadnezzar went over, again, from Iran area, went over to conquer Egypt. Well, he didn't make it. They booted him out. On his way back home, he said, you've got Egypt on the south, and on the northeast side, you've got Iran. In between, sandwiched in between, is Israel. And Nebuchadnezzar is angry. And because of how history will remember him, Nebuchadnezzar, daddy. Okay, so then he will die, and who Nebuchadnezzar is next in line to become king. Okay, and then he will die, and his son will become king. Okay, and then he will die, and who's next? You've got, well, let me tell you as we're going along, okay? Now, verse 17, he came near to where I was standing, and as he approached, I was terrified and fell on my face. But he said to me, Son of man, understand that the vision pertains to the time of the end. So what is he saying here? The vision that you saw, Son of man, Daniel, the prophet, is not necessarily all of it going to be for your time frame in world history, but the majority of it is going to be for the future. What the Bible calls, and also we speak of the end of days, which is these times now that we're living in. No, I'm not saying that the world is going to end today, tomorrow, the next day, but we're very, very close to the end of days. The prophecy that was given to that explained to Daniel. Okay, now verse 18. While he was speaking to me, I fell into a deep sleep with my face to the ground. but he touched me and stood me up. Now, what happened to Daniel? Daniel fell into a slumber, asleep. Why? Because in this human flesh, we cannot handle to see or to touch, for us to touch God, and also not his angels. And when he saw the angel Gabriel, he literally melted and fell to his feet, fell to face down. He couldn't help it. In the book of Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah says, I was asleep. Well, that's the only way he's going to be able to see God. And I saw the back of God when God was sitting on his throne. I couldn't see his face, but I can tell you this much. When I saw his back, the throne that God was sitting on, I like melted. I like a Cabbage Patch doll who has a torn foot. All the stuffing was coming out of him. He couldn't handle seeing the back of God. So you got to watch out when people say, I saw the Lord. Oh, yeah? How come the prophet Isaiah couldn't see the Lord? How come the prophet Daniel couldn't even see the angel Gabriel awake? You got people who claim they saw the Lord. They hugged him, they kissed him. The Lord came up to them and said nothing. Let's go on, verse 19. And said, behold, I am going to inform you about what will happen later in the time of wrath. Guess where we're at? We're at the door of the time of wrath. What happened October the 7th? A wrath, and that's only the beginning of birth pains for the Jews. It's going to get worse. It's the end of time, the end of days. Behold, I am going to inform you about what will happen later in time of wrath, for the vision pertains to the appointed time of the end times. I'm going to give you the vision of the future and explain to you what is happening. Verse 20, the ram that you saw with two horns stands for the king of Media and Persia. Again, Persia is later going to be in the 1930s called Iran. Today, it is the land of Iran, but this is what we're talking about. Now, the king is who? He is a clue that God's giving Daniel. His mother was a Midianite, the king that I'm going to mention his name. Okay, she was the daughter of King Astyages, the Midianite king in those days. Okay, she would be the mother of the king that we're talking about here, and the Persian, okay, is Cambyses the first. Cambyses is the father of guess who? Cyrus is who they're talking about. Now, Cyrus is not a Jewish name, and nobody knows where it came from, but God gave it 150 years before to Cyrus, who was going to come and set the Jewish people free. Okay? And again, he would be the Midianite Persian king. His mother was Midianite and his father was Persian, Iranian. Now, who comes from Persia in scripture? Father Abraham was born in Iran. Okay. Now, who besides the king Astyages and his daughter, a Midianite, who else do you know was a Midianite? Moses' mother. Moses' mother. Forgive me. His wife. His wife was a Midianite because her father was a Midianite priest. Let's go on. Verse 21. The buck of the male goat is the king of Greece, and the large horn between his eyes is the first king. Now, okay, one more time. The buck, the male goat, is the king of Greece. Now, here's why, another reason why God allowed Daniel to not only know the future, to give him permission to hear the future, because he was going to believe. He was going to believe everything that was said before him. Why? You and I know that there is a country called Greece, right? And Alexander the Great will come from Greece, let's call him. Okay? We know that because, again, if we look at it through the book of Revelation, we're looking at the past. This already happened. But looking at it from Daniel's side, he's looking at the future. Greece was a nobody, nowhere. No one ever expected for Greece to come up and be powerful. No one. It's like my saying to you, okay, in San Antonio, we have 1.5 million people living here. And we have to watch out because in the future, the little city of Poteet, let's just say 30,000 people, they're going to conquer us. They're going to come up to San Antonio and conquer us and enslave us. First thing you'd say, oh, come on. In San Antonio, we're over 1.5 million people, citizens, and the little town of Poteet is going to conquer us, who has, let's just say as an example, 30,000 people. Greece was a nobody, a nothing. But why, again, did God give the answers to Daniel? Because Daniel would believe. That's a problem we have when we're told about the future, when you're asked, plain simple, when you're asking God to tell you the future about yourself, your wife, your husband, your children, our grandchildren. But if he were to tell you, would you believe? You say, oh, yes. It took Daniel 82 years. And God realized Daniel was true blue. Daniel believed whatever God was going to tell him through other prophets, through the angel Gabriel, he would not doubt. So again, why are some of your prayers and mine not answered? Because you couldn't handle it. Because you would not necessarily believe. You say you will, and if you were to hear the idea with God is God knows you won't. You're not gonna go, oh, come on, God, give me the answer. Come on, God, I can handle it. Oh, I believe, I can understand. God knows your heart. God knows your mind. God knows you're not going to believe. Until that day comes, you can't blame God because you're not ready. You haven't proven yourself like Daniel did. He was faithful to Adonai Yahweh Elohim, our God, and he was faithful to the kings who ruled over him. Okay, we're going to stop there and continue next time I come before you. But the key I want you to understand, we want to know, because we have the Old Testament, we have the history, how we got here, the Jewish people in Israel fighting in Gaza with Hamas, with Hezbollah. Where's Hezbollah out of the Bible? Where it's It's Lebanon. Where's Lebanon? Jesus went 50 miles from the Jewry, walked 50 miles to visit a woman, some Bibles is called the Syrophoenician woman. The example here in Texas, we have two cities side by side, Dallas, Fort Worth. When you travel from one city, Dallas, and going south to or east or west, forgive me, you sometimes wind up in Fort Worth, and you didn't realize you had already crossed the line there. Okay, in the Bible, you've got Tyre and Sidon. Is two twin cities. One where God went to heal two people, the mother, the Syrophoenician mama, and her daughter. That's the area of Lebanon. Okay, and who are they? Or even us in America are fighting in the south of Israel. Huh? Who? What people that are sinking boats that are not even Israeli boats? Who is it? In the south. Yeah, in South Iran. We will continue this story. We will continue more as God, because He had the answer 3,500 years ago. And if we don't have to be as holy as Daniel, because the answer is in the book. The answer is in the Torah. And the answer is also to prove God is faithful to His word. It's in the book of Revelation, the New Testament. Your friend, Reverend Dr. Frank Porter. Amen.